Mark Gordon, managing editor of the Business Observer. Welcome, Mark. So nice to talk with you.
Thank you for having me, Jennifer. What a great idea for a podcast. I'm excited to be here.
Well, from fellow to another. I
Yes.
appreciate that. And Mark, whether or not you realize it, I've known you for many years. I've been on the other side where I'm pitching you business stories and topics, and you've just been your eye for journalism and editorial, and the stories that you put out are just so impressive that I had to talk with you and learn more.
Very flattered. Thanks for having me on. And likewise, you are really good at your job because, as I often say, it's some of these things that we interact and at these panels that we go to, how to get your story told in the media. One of the things I often say is know your audience, right? And so you know who the Business Observer audience is who we are, who we read, who our readers are, I should say. And that's always appreciated on my side of things.
Well, thank you for that. Yes, it's an art of research continuously. Now, I will get to the Business Observer in a bit, but I have to ask, this is the point of this podcast is to get to know you and all the fun stuff that makes you you. I mean, you really know so much about so many aspects in the Tampa market, a huge market for business, life,
Yes.
everything. So I want to know what you do for fun. I've had the pleasure of getting a sneak peek before our show of things that you like. I'm just like looking at my notes here. I found one thing that I wanted to like start with, which
Okay.
is, could your creative reset or guilty pleasure? I really loved
Oh
your
God.
answer was could be as big as a road trip or as small as baking cookies at midnight. But here's the thing that I loved the most, dipping chocolate into peanut butter jar. Tell me.
And I do have to say, Jennifer, you're as we're both podcasters, right? I'm way more nervous on this side of the microphone now that you started asking questions about me. But okay, that being said, so yeah, well, honestly, I got to start with I'm 51, so just give you context, right? And I remember seeing my dad when I was probably 10 years old, so we're talking 41 years ago, do that with Hershey bars, like break off little pieces of he made
Yeah.
like his own peanut butter cup.
Oh
Um,
my gosh, this is
right. And I was
genius.
like, oh, that's it's like sticks in your head. And you know what? I had not done that for years. And then I don't know, like 3 or 4 years ago, it just suddenly came to me. It only really works when there's a lot of peanut butter in the jar. If we're gonna get like deep in the weeds here, if
Right.
there's only a little bit left of peanut butter, then your arm's got to go in, and but this
Totally.
this is just straight up chocolate. And then I did get kind of talk about guilty pleasure. I literally had a guilty look because like my wife turned and she's like, "What in the world are you doing?" I don't like broadcast it in the house. So like, "Oh, I'm going to go put
Yes.
chocolate and peanut butter." So
Yeah.
it's a homemade peanut butter cup. It's a go-to. If this podcast is about eating habits, I'm gonna fail. So I just want to get that out there. But yes, that is a go-to guilty pleasure.
You know what? I might have to teach my kids this later because I think they're gonna love it. That's such a cool idea. I hadn't thought of it before.
Right?
We like Nutella, dipping things in Nutella, so
100%. Just go for it. Yes, I say do it. Let's start a trend.
I love it. I'm a foodie, so anything like that comes up with creative, delicious, amazing things, I'm always like, yeah, I need to know more
Yes.
about it. So, well, Mark, so tell me when the day ends, when you like close your computer finally or shut it down or whatever, what is like your daily thing that you like to do?
Well, when the computer ends, shut it down. One of the things that we've been doing a lot in our house, we're a family of three. It's my wife, Elise, and our son, Aaron, who is 17. And he just started his last
Oh,
first day of school. So he's a senior in high school. So our thing is depending on the time, which is usually around Wheel of Fortune, we watch like the end of Wheel of Fortune and Jeopardy. We're a Jeopardy watching family. And
wow.
we don't get a lot of them right. Although the pop culture ones, our son Aaron does pretty well. But I'm getting a little, I don't know, misty. Like I know that he's not going to be around forever. It's not that I
Mm,
love Jeopardy. I like it. It's more just like hanging out with him because he
that's what it's
still likes
about.
us. So lately, that has been a big thing that we have done. Just the three of us chilling out, watching game shows.
I love that you said that he still likes us. Like that's my goal. My kids are 8 and 6, and
Yeah.
so my thought is I want them to like still like me. And so I'm doing everything now to, work on respect and our
Yeah.
relationship and treating them like human beings.
And you want, I think, right? I mean, as parents, we want them to be likable. Like my wife says this really well. Like you want to raise somebody who you want to hang out with too. Not that you have to be their parent, especially 8 and 6. I'm sure there's different discipline things that have to take place.
Oh
So
yeah.
you're not their friend, but you want to raise somebody right,
That's
right? Like
right.
so he's a chill kid, he's a theater kid, he's into kinds of actings and things. And yeah, so that's kind of our go-to spot.
Wow, I love
Yeah.
that. And it's you're kind of like hanging out, chilling, and also learning, some things too. So that's
Yes.
pretty cool.
Yes.
Oh my goodness. So when it comes to maybe like the weekend, it's not the wrapping up the evening. Is there anything that like you and your family you guys just love to do, especially I feel like, there's so much to do here in the Tampa Bay area.
Yeah, and I do want to, obviously, I'm going to answer that, but I just thought of something as you were asking that. I want to go back if I can, like real quick. The other interesting thing about watching Jeopardy with our son that I've learned is as adults, my wife and I are so quick to be judgmental, right? We see somebody on the screen and look at what they're wearing, or man, that shirt looks weird, or that guy looks like a doofus, and he still has this innocence, even though he's
Oh,
17. He has this like innocence where like he never makes fun. I'm not saying he doesn't do it when we're not around, maybe he does, but he's very like not making fun of people, and it's kind of cool to see. It almost like
wow.
snaps me up to not be so judgmental, if that makes sense. It's like a weird thing I've learned. I don't know. I wanted to
No, it's
share that.
beautiful. It's
Like,
totally awesome. Like hitting the nail on the head on good human.
yes, right. Because, like, I don't, hopefully, don't do that in a public way, but you're in your own house. But it's a good lesson to me, like, ease off
Yes.
on that. Okay. So, as far as weekends, we're a pretty relaxed family, I guess. We live in Manatee County, East Manatee County, but we're in Sarasota a lot and Tampa and St. Pete. And
Oh, cool.
so we're kind of like, we like to go walking places. We're early rising kind of family. We've always just been, our son's always, he's not like a sleep teenager kind of kid, which is weird. Go somewhere we like, not really so much in the summer, but the Ringling Bridge in Sarasota is one of our like
So
go-to
cool.
places to walk. And we live about a mile from Benderson Park, which is a big park in North Sarasota that we go to pretty often. So doing walking and then maybe brunch somewhere. So pretty easy weekends. I like the weekends to be as decompressed as
Yeah.
possible.
Yes. Especially with I mean, I feel like you're probably thinking all the time. I mean, you've got to come up with the news.
Yeah,
And that's always like looking in different angles and the important aspects of it. So I'm sure that decompression is so important.
it is. I think, and it's probably enough for material for another podcast. Like we all struggle with, I think, what is it, work-life balance, right?
Yeah.
Like when do you turn off work? It's great that we can work from home, but then when do you turn it off? When do you don't turn it off? And if I could just do this one thing, that's one less thing I have to do
Yep.
Monday. But then you're like shaking yourself, like, well, this is my weekend, and so you just kind of fit it in. But yeah, as I wouldn't say there's no work because we do work on the weekends, but not a ton.
I totally agree. Like that, we can all learn so much from that. So something I found fascinating about you also that you shared was that you were a probation officer like
Yes.
20 years ago. Tell me about that and how that
Yes.
shaped like who you are now.
Yes, I'm filling out this sheet that you sent, which was great. And one of the questions I think was like, is there anything I'm not comfortable sharing? And I'll answer anything. There's really nothing I could think of that I wouldn't. But that is kind of a weird twist. So I just for like the backstory part, I didn't know I was going to be a reporter in journalism when I went to college in Pittsburgh at the University of Pittsburgh. I just kind of floated into college. Everybody knew went to college, so I did, and I really liked writing and got into it and worked for the school newspaper. My first couple of jobs were in newspapers. And I should say, too, I grew up in New York on Long Island, and 9/11 happens. I'm 26, 25, 26. And it just really, obviously, it impacted everybody. And it's not that I knew anybody directly that was killed. It just had this really big impact on me, sort of professionally. And so, as I said, I was in newspapers. And at that age, well, it's 2001. And digital wasn't a big thing. And the idea was like in print journalism, you wanted to like keep going up, right? Be it a bigger paper. You wanted to keep going. So you got to the New York Times or the Washington Post or like Times, that was the thing.
Wow.
And I was kind of getting there and I was like, I don't know if I want to do newspapers anymore. And so I went to Philadelphia where I had worked. I was living in Florida at the time. I moved to Philadelphia with not old, but a friend of mine who was also going to graduate school at the time. The two of us were roommates, and I went to Villanova in Philadelphia, just outside the city, got a master's in criminal justice, and was thinking, all right, I'm going to be an FBI agent. Again, this is like my post
Whoa.
9/11. And yeah, and I go through like four stages of the process. And I actually was dating Elise, my now wife at the time,
Oh,
and my father-in-law said it was the best. He still jokes about this. It was the best background check for a
oh,
potential son-in-law you could imagine because I really did get this full FBI workup. Like they were calling,
whoa.
roommates, and they called my brother and all kinds of people. And
Gosh.
so within that, I get this job as an intern at this probation office and working with teenagers. And I don't know, epiphany is kind of an overused word, I think. I don't think it was as high as an epiphany, but it was something I never even thought that I would want to do, and I really liked it. And I ended up getting a job there. I graduated, got my master's degree, and this was in a county right outside of Philadelphia. And I worked with, I mean, it wasn't really law enforcement. It was more social work than law enforcement. There was a little bit of that, but I worked with families and started programs and did all these things and was actually going to stay in that field. My wife was recruited for a job in Bradenton
Oh
in
my goodness.
2005. She's in the healthcare field, and I applied for jobs in that field here. Nothing really didn't work out, and I cold called the owner of the Observer Media Group in Sarasota. His name is Matt Walsh, and Matt and I met and hit it off, and here I am 20 years later back in
My God.
journalism.
Wow.
So yeah, and it was, just to get back to your question, it was a really interesting experience. I love doing it. I mean, at this stage of my life, I wouldn't do that again, but I don't have bad memories about it either, if that makes sense. Like,
No, that's amazing. And I think it gives you a whole different perspective on things. And it's so cool to see how, like, you came back to journalism and to Florida. That's just
yeah.
so neat.
Yeah, the journalism part was good. Like I think I didn't know this at the time, but the journalism I was in, and it was fine. I think I had a good career, and I was like writing stories, and I was covering like police news, and it was, you're young and you're exciting, and that was good. I didn't realize you don't have to be
Yeah.
attack driven, and that was my mindset previously. And then I meet the Walshes, Matt and his wife Lisa, who passed away recently. They had started this company, and their daughter's now, Emily's now our publisher, and it's just a different way of thinking about journalism. And it's why I'm here 20 years later. Like, I can't imagine with the way the state of this industry is that I would ever work for another. There's just no other media company I would work for. So to your point, like, it was interesting to come back to this, and especially at this big transition time in journalism. But I love this organization and kind of what we stand for.
Oh my gosh, I'm seeing that thread between like how you approach your son, your family, and that kindness and being like a good human, and then how you look at your career and
Yeah.
journalism. That is really cool.
Thank you. And you know what's, as we're talking, because you and I have known each other for several, I don't know, maybe 10 years, like
Yeah,
quite
a
a
while.
while,
Yeah.
right? And we'll see each other at events and hey, and that's great. And I love that connection. I At other newspapers, it would have been like foreign to connect with somebody like, ew, you're the other side, or you're the PR
Yes.
person,
Or the
or
dark side.
own the business, and why would I want to talk to you? And this like opened my eyes to like you could still write good journalism stories, but
Yeah.
you can also like say, well, how are your kids doing? How was your first day of school for your
Mm,
and that was like foreign to me. And there's so many other things that I just love about the journalism we do. But yeah, thank you for saying that, because that's important to me, that people don't leave an experience from the Observer Media Group like, man, what a jerk.
right. Yeah, and I can say, that I've always have had positive experiences
Yes,
with
good,
the Observer.
good.
Absolutely. And I think that your legacy, your time there, like everything shines and shows through.
Thank
So it's got to be intentional, I can tell. I want to ask about too, so true crime books. Tell me all about it. What is your favorite? Why? What can I get into? I love reading. I'm always like down for a good recommendation on a book.
So Michael Conley would be top of my list. Tampa, I guess, part-time Tampa Bay resident. Not that I know him. That
Oh,
makes it sound like
cool.
I know him. I don't. But I have met people who know him through stories. And I guess he worked for or when it was the Tampa Bay or St. Pete Times a while ago, and then he worked for the LA Times. So Michael Conley writes, Harry Bosch is the name of the character. Those would be like my top favorite
Oh my gosh.
true crime books. You should, and there's a show on Amazon which is really good. I feel like also called Bosch. I feel like if you're going to start it, you should read the books first. The show's really good, but the books are better, I think.
Oh, yeah. That's like the case. I feel like that's, yeah, when the books are better, it's so nice.
Yes. And
I feel like you
so
need to meet him.
yeah, I do. There was a book signing type thing at a Barnes and Noble. What a Florida story because it was canceled because of one of the hurricanes. I
Ugh,
don't know when it was. It was like, August something and
of course,
they
yeah.
blend together, right? I don't know if it was Ian or Herlene or whatever it was. So Michael, I'm sure you're listening to this podcast. Come back to Tampa,
That's right.
so we can meet and we can do that.
You got to organize this meeting.
Yes.
Yeah.
And then so I like that, and then I'll read like mafia type books, like mob movie books. I didn't put that on the list actually. I do like Goodfellas type movies, so I'll read those books pretty
Cool. Yeah.
pretty frequently. That's a thing I have.
Oh my goodness. So I have to ask personally too. So how long have you been married? How did you meet your wife? Because that sounds like an amazing story too. Like, can't believe like you were doing these FBI background checks. You know, tell me all about it.
Yeah, well, okay, so my wife is amazing. I don't know how amazing the story is. So we are Jewish, my wife and we met on Jewish Date,
J date.
jdate.com date. But the I guess the interesting or quirky or funny part about this story is this was 2000, so we both had AOL dial up.
Oh
So
my God.
to your listeners of a certain age, there was that sound of you were dialing into your internet connection. But we were both single and living in Philadelphia or just kind of outside the city. And we met. It was kind of a slow, talked on the phone a few times. And I think we wanted to feel each other out, right? No creepers.
Yeah.
Maybe
Yeah.
she did. I don't know. And we met at kind of a bar restaurant in a town called Bryn Mawr, right outside Philadelphia, and dated like a year and a half, and then got married. I know because it's 2025. We've been married 20 years in April. So
That is incredible. I love
yeah,
to hear that.
yeah.
I'm a hopeless romantic. I've been married for 25 years this year. And so I just love hearing people that
Congratulations,
yeah,
25. That's awesome.
25. And we waited super long before having kids. 16 years of marriage before
Yeah.
having children and it's just the timing is right or whenever that was.
So I've like as this podcast is on, like there's so many questions I want to ask you, but I know I'm not supposed to ask questions,
Go
but I
ahead.
do have to
No, this
ask
is a conversation.
because it's your podcast. But okay, so 16 years, do you and your husband have like, BC before children
Yes.
conversations? And like 'cause
Yeah.
in our house, it's BA before Aaron. Our 17-year-old's name is Aaron. So like
Oh,
BA. But do you
right.
guys specifically talk? Because that's a long time, right?
It seems as though that's how I swear that now that you've said that, it seems as though that's how I think. I'm like, there's either before children or after. Like
Yes.
those are the separations in my
Yes.
life. I don't, yeah. And it's funny when my kids ask me questions like, so, what did you do? Did you, and I'm like, oh, or something comes on and I'm like, oh, I went to that concert. And they're like, when did you go? And I'm like, well, it was way before you were born, before you were thought of. And because
Yes.
to them, there's nothing before them. They're just like, I
Yes.
existed and I'm everything. So I just think it's
Yes.
hilarious.
That's so wild. And then just to think, I'm just thinking out loud as you're talking about this, you have a 6-year-old, which means
Yeah.
he or she.
So my
She's
oldest is a boy, youngest girl.
so your 6-year-old, when she's like 15, 16, whatever,
Yeah.
like COVID is going to be basically meaningless to her.
Oh,
Not
yes.
meaningless, but her sense of COVID was a toddler. So, which is
We,
wild. It's like the seminal moment
yes.
for all of us.
Absolutely. I totally find that fascinating. We'll bring it
Yeah,
up occasionally, like as we go through, like Google Photos or whatever, when the memories come up.
sure.
And sometimes they'll see something with somebody wearing a mask and they'll still be like, why was
What?
that person wearing that? And I said,
Yeah,
well, I said, you lived it, but they don't remember.
yeah.
So I'm like, well, there was this thing and it happened to the whole world and
That's right. Like, how do you explain that? Like,
felt like the world
wow.
was ending and
Yep.
really confusing time for just about every person on the planet.
We're
But
yeah, like we're walking the same direction in public aisles. Like all of it is
oh
bizarre to
my
think about
gosh.
now, right? All those little
Right.
things that you had to do. And I'm not getting into the, the polarization of it,
Right.
but right, it's crazy all these things that we had to do. Like,
Totally. The spacers that were on the floor,
yep,
6 feet apart or whatever. Yeah. And I'm almost relieved that they don't kind of remember it. I think my son probably remembers more, but my
yeah,
daughter was only like 6 months old or something.
yeah,
She was itty bitty. So
yeah.
she really doesn't remember it. And I'm kind of glad.
Yeah.
Now, your son
Good.
was probably in the peak of middle school.
Yeah, I'll tell you a funny story about our COVID experience. So again, my wife, who's awesome, my hero in so many ways, she is a speech pathologist and speech
Hmm.
therapist, and she works at assisted living centers and treats people with dementia and strokes. And
Hmm.
so COVID happens, and she's out of the house every day, right? She's gowned up, and she was getting, decompress like in the garage to not bring that stuff inside. That was her life every day. I'm keyboard warrior. I work for a newspaper. And my son's home from, right, exactly, from middle school. And Aaron and I had the best time because his middle school didn't really adapt very quickly to, they did and they didn't. I guess like a lot of schools, it was somewhat of a struggle.
Yeah.
So it wasn't really a challenging academic time for him. So he'd finish school like at 12:30,
Awesome.
and he would walk around the house and just put YouTube on his phone or whatever. And I'm working, and I made him lunch every day. I would like make a hot lunch, and I would text a picture of it to my wife, nursing home, and
Oh
they
my
called me
gosh.
Doris the lunch lady.
Oh my.
And that's what we did. And it's funny you asked earlier about like what we do on the weekends and stuff. This is super relevant because so I'm home every day and I'm working, and there was all that stress of like what's going to happen with the newspaper industry, all that stuff. She's home. When she gets home, she just wants to hit the couch and be done. Inside all day, I'm like, let's go somewhere. So we made like a commitment every weekend. We went to a different beach that we had not been to
Oh.
previously.
Wow.
We went to like St. Pete. Well, I'd been to St. Pete Beach, but all these like, Clearwater Beach, but then another beach within Clearwater Beach.
Yeah.
So we just kind of, it was like our weekend thing because that's what people were doing, right? Like I
Right.
craved outdoor, and I'm not a huge outdoor person. Like I don't camp, and we can get into that if you want to, but I needed something outside, like, and
Yes. Then the four walls
then the
that.
four walls. But she was like, I just want to stay home and be in my
Hmm.
pajamas, and I see both sides, but that was
Because she was an essential worker, right? Healthcare and
yeah, she was setting up iPads for people to have
mm,
like what pretty much was like their last phone call with a loved one. She was
mm.
opening windows so that people could talk to the people below. Like it was it again, you talk about what we teach our kids and how we show COVID to people. That's like it just blows you away, right? That was a thing, and it was happening, I guess, all over the world, right? Like,
Yeah. Oh my gosh. It is
yeah.
so just weird that we lived through that. I mean, it's almost like you think of like zombie apocalypse. Like it was just
Yeah,
crazy
totally.
that we
They
went through
make these
this.
Yeah, they make movies about this, right? They call them
Yeah.
28 days, and it's a bunch of zombies wandering around, and you got to
Yeah.
inject them with something to survive. I'm like, well,
Yeah. Not seeing your family, all that. I mean, my
yeah,
gosh. What it was
yeah,
just nuts. Yeah. So the kid I hope all the kids have a least like good kind of a good experience in some ways. I know that I mean there are all these studies that how it affected them with their learning and social, but
academically, sure.
I like to think of that positive part where they had a little bit more time with their families and
Yeah,
probably did some
yeah,
different stuff. So
yeah.
I think that's
Different for
really cool.
sure.
Yeah, I think it's cool too how you guys went to different beaches. I'm jealous. I hadn't thought of that.
Yeah, it was cool. It was like I said, it was totally different. I mean, because again, Siesta Key we go to, and we went to Couple South, we went to Captiva. Like we hit a lot of beaches, and as we're not like, and it wasn't like an all day thing. It was more just like to go. I mean, it was a couple hours, but it wasn't
Yeah.
a huge like eight. It doesn't have to be a big thing. You just put the bathing suit on, get in the water a little bit, chill out, and then go home.
Get a little bit of a sense of normalcy in
Yeah,
in that
exactly.
time. Oh my gosh.
Yes, yes.
Were you guys what was the paper like at that point? Like were you doing any in-person interviews or was
Yeah,
it virtual?
mostly virtual. The beginning was certainly a stressful time in terms of overall as a company, our advertising revenue is a lot on the real estate market and
Mm,
sort of the related, I guess, entertainment. Like, so, the shows and
mm,
movies and things like that are happening. And those obviously went to zero overnight.
yeah.
And so advertising revenue took a really 60-70% drop. And so there was, some stress and concern there. And then it was more just kind of the grind of work, just trying to figure
Yep.
out how to tell these stories. And, let's find, we write about CEOs a lot, right? And so let's find some CEOs. I remember we talked to the new CEO of Checkers, which at
Mm,
the time was based in Tampa, like, and that's a fast food company that had to, pivot, right? That word used a bazillion times. And, so we try and find leaders and say, how are you dealing with this? And then I think I don't want to say help, but it pushed us a little bit to be more digital first
yep.
focused with our news coverage, which, we're not unique in that way. I think a lot of publications are trying and going that way. So yeah, I think for the general feel was just the stress of like managing life while
Mm.
still go to work every day, but you were home.
Yes.
Just try and keep it loose. And I'm sure you had this experience in your life. Some people adapted to that stress better than others.
Yeah.
And I think I learned a lot, hopefully, I think I learned a lot as a manager about meeting people where they are. And
Right.
just because it's not the way I would do it doesn't necessarily mean it's not okay or not a good, it's just being much more accepting of that, where,
Yeah. Everybody's handling anything in their lives different
yeah,
and totally saw that during that
yeah,
time, especially.
yeah,
I think for us, and I'm going into work mode a little bit, but for the news industry, for me, it opened up a lot because all of a sudden we were doing national news interviews via
yeah,
Zoom,
right.
whereas before we had to head to a station. And so it really changed
Yeah.
the media landscape. And I'm looking for that silver lining,
Yes. It's good.
like
That's
to
good. Yes.
to a hard situation. Yeah, no, no. Well, I know that you were recently invited to join the board of the Florida Holocaust Museum in St. Pete. Tell me a little bit
I
about
was.
that.
Yeah, so, sort of combating or being aware or fighting anti-Semitism is something that's been important to me for a long time. And, I think there's more of it in the news now. I don't know how much more there really is, but there's certainly, well, there is more of it, but it's in the news more. And that's a good thing, I guess, in terms of getting it out there. As far as the board, specifically the previous board chair, Josh Baumstein, with a company in Clearwater called Creative Contractors. I've been friends with him for several years, and we've talked about Judaism in Israel and things like that. And he
Mm.
asked me if I'd be interested, and I said I would. And I've been on a couple other boards before, so I'm hopefully a little prepared for this, but it's coming up. I think my term starts soon, and I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how I can help the organization.
Oh, I think that's just amazing. And I could think of so many ways where you can really help that organization connect to other employers and groups in the community and having a voice. So I
Thank
think
you.
that you'll do amazing things. And I think it's such a needed
Thank you.
cause.
The thing about like having a voice, I think about that, and then you and I were talking off air, right, about like the self-doubt that kind of gets into all of us, and I'm like,
Yeah.
well, is my voice important enough? Does anybody care what I have to say? And so that's part of, I think, growing. And I've been, like I said, I've been on a couple of nonprofit boards, and that's helped me. But I'm excited about the opportunity for it.
I am so surprised for you to say that because you should know so many people look up to you. I mean, you are a leader in the community
Thank you.
and in journalism and in business. Those are like so
Yeah,
many areas, and a lot of people aspire to, have followed your footprints
it's
path.
very kind of you. Thank you.
Well, I mean, no, it's absolutely true.
Yeah.
So I think your voice is very important, very needed, and very connecting to others. So that's cool. What are some of their objectives? How can people help the Holocaust Museum?
Well, it's reopening, and again, I don't know exactly when your air date is. It's reopening in September, so they're going to make a big push to kind of get the word out that it's a new and different museum, and then just general awareness, I think. And again, hopefully, I'll be able to articulate our mission better when I'm
Well,
in the throes
yeah.
of it. I don't want to butcher it, but I think general awareness of what is going on and what the issues are, and it's in downtown St. Pete. And like I said, I think September 10th is the sort of official reopening. So after that, it is open to the public, and I know there's education classes that they take on the road and things like that. So there's a lot of opportunities to learn.
I remember going to a Holocaust museum as a child, probably in elementary school, maybe middle school, but it was profound for me. It really
Yeah.
affected me. On a personal note, so my next door neighbors, they just moved here from Israel 5 months
Oh, wow.
ago. And I have just like instant best friends. They are just so cool, and they're teaching me so much about their heritage and culture. And
That's
I just,
awesome.
yeah, they're awesome. So they're good people.
That's amazing. I'd love to meet them. I went to Israel for the first time in April
Really?
50. I know, and I'd never been there before, even though I had a couple opportunities as a younger person. I just never put it together. And I went with the Jewish Federation of Sarasota Manatee on some of their like ex-board members and board chairs. And it was just trip of a lifetime, amazing, all those amazing things. And out of all that, not that there's great history, and obviously it's super important time to be there given what's happening.
Yeah.
But we were talking about food earlier. They have like the most amazing falafel in
Uh,
Israel. Like I want to talk to your neighbors about how that happens because I can't recreate it here. Like,
Let's do it. Let's totally talk with them because they have, yeah, they were already teaching me about putting the lid on. I mean,
yes,
yeah, I need to know step by step. We need to know how to do this.
I mentioned it to shout out to the people in Tampa at the Florida Israel Business Accelerator. My friends Rakefet and Pam there, because it's the first thing I told them. They're like, "How was your trip to Israel?" Like, it was amazing, but it was even better. And how do you
Mhm.
make this? And they're like, "Well, you have to be in Israel." So there's a way to do it stateside. We just got to figure out what that is, Jennifer, because it's
Let's,
really good.
for the sake of our joy in life, we need to find that out. I'm a big
Yes.
falafel lover, so
Yes, the one thing that brings me both joy and sadness, or joy and heartbreak, again, growing up in New York, big New York Mets baseball fan, it's a plight in life. My son, Aaron, our son, my nephew, Andrew, got to him when he was early and he became a Yankees fan,
no.
which is, I consider being a Yankees fan the easy way out because they win a lot and the Mets don't.
Oh my
But
gosh.
that is something I'm kind of old school. I have an app, I have the MLB app, and I listen to the games
That's
radio.
cool.
That's kind of I just like listening on the radio. I've gotten at least my wife into it. So it's kind of like one of these things we look forward to listening. And, we're hoping they can, right now, as in mid-August, we're tanking a little bit, but who knows? There's still 2 months left of baseball. Helps me be optimistic. So that's a big thing in I might like other sports, but that's it for me is the Mets. That's the main team.
That is too funny that your son became a Yankees fan and
He totally did. His cousin, who they're very close now, was I think 22, Andrew. He totally corrupted him. He said when he was Aaron was like 3, and so Andrew was like 6 or 7. Is you got to be a Yankees fan, don't be a Mets fan. So
oh
he,
my
you
gosh.
know,
Oh,
enemy, the dark side.
do you get to go to many games, especially like when they come here?
Yeah, like such a dork. I did go to all 3 Mets
Good.
games when they were in Tampa. I think was that last year or 2 years ago. We go to decent. I haven't been to any Rays games as they play in at the new stadium, the new old stadium now,
Yeah,
with all the
yeah.
stuff that happened at the Trop. Just time wise, haven't been to any games this year, but we like going to baseball games. Yeah,
That's so cool.
yeah.
And I love that your wife is like right there with you into it, and that's
She's
awesome.
she's totally gone into it. Like she'll even if we go to bed before a game is over, it's like one of the first things she'll do after the alarm. She'll go, Alexa, who won the Mets game?
Oh
Like
my
we know
gosh.
right away. 5:45, that's our wake up time. It's like boom, what?
That's hilarious. And you
Yes.
can tell that's meant to be. That's love right there.
Yes. Yes. Very lucky.
Well, Mark, it was such a pleasure. We have to do this again. Let's totally do this
Yes.
again.
Awesome. This was really fun. Thank you for doing this and for having me on.
Yeah, thank you.